I'm sorry.
There we go, and we are live. So welcome to Talmud, everyone. Any lingering anythings from last week or from the last few weeks? So we've been making our way through Brachot, right? We started at the beginning of Brachot, which is this tractate nominally on blessings. But what we've been talking about, and really the main focus of our conversations, has been that the whole innovation of blessings or prayer or all of these things that we tend to think of today in religious terms, actually we have to see it through notions of authenticity and authority within a world where the rabbis don't have it and are trying to establish it. So one of the themes we've been looking at over and over again is that actually one of the ironies is that the later rabbis of the Talmud venerate the early rabbis and assume that they can't be wrong. But the reality is that it is the very later rabbis who actually hold some authority within their communities, as opposed to the early rabbis of the Mishnah, who later come to have this mythology surrounding them, but in reality probably were pretty fringy folk, only speaking to the fringes. In that way, it's like not so different from other similar movements like the Jesus movement, right? Like Jesus during his era doesn't have anywhere near the following or the sort of devotionalism around him as you see afterwards and is later attributed to him during his time. We see the same thing here. Okay, any comments, any thoughts on that before we jump into text? Okay. That's not what I want to do. I want to share screen. I want to share Brachot. Okay. How do I switch these around? Sorry, I'm all fancy today. I plugged in a second monitor. There we go. So I can look at everyone. You still see Brachot, right?
No.
No, there was the incumbent was just on.
Okay, let's try this all over again.
Yeah, I had a nice news feed.
Yeah.
Let's
With
try this.
someone who I don't want to see a news feed from. It's been 2 days without news for me so far.
How's this? You see Brachot now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Just a blank page with the title on it.
Yeah. Part of my problem here is that I have these two monitors up, but they like Windows thinks they're at the opposite. The one on the right's the one on the left, and I can't. My brain's not good enough to correct for that. Okay, here we go.
There we are.
So we were going to remember where we stopped last time. I remember that was something we were going to aspirationally work on, was remembering where we stopped.
Right.
I think I have it.
Boy, Danny, you didn't pay attention to me. I told you to write it down.
We were on page 14.
Page 14. Well done, Toby. Thank you.
I don't think we're on page 14.
I think at the top of the page. What is the practical ramification of this sign? Yeah.
Okay, I think it's the next one. I think we're on that next paragraph. Bar Yitzchak Bar Shmuel. Yeah, I think you're right, Toby.
Yeah.
Okay, someone jump in.
Rav Yitzchak Bar Shmuel said in the name of Rav, the night consists of 3 watches, and over each and every watch, the Holy One, blessed be he, sits and roars like a lion. I think we did this because the temple service was connected to the changing of these watches and says, woe to me that is due to their sins. I destroyed my house, burned my temple, and exiled them among the nations of the world.
Yeah, you're definitely right, Toby. We did that paragraph, but that's okay.
What we ended. Yeah, that's
what we ended.
That's what we ended.
So okay, here God is blaming the children for God's destroying the temple. It's their fault I did it, right?
Yeah, that's an interesting, Toby, I was going to zoom over this because I think I'm reading this as really an intro to the next section, but yeah, there's something abusive about the nature of this relationship and power dynamic, and yeah, nice.
and I remember it really bothered me last time also because it's refusing to take responsibility for the action that God chose to do and blaming, I'm not going to call them victims, but blaming the children of Israel for what God did.
So
Made me do it, I think.
yeah. So the next place to go with this is to remember that this is the teaching of Rav Yitzchak Bar Shmuel, who says this in the name of Rav, right? Like this is the rabbinic imagination. Like they are placing themselves into this sort of gross theology. And this is a theme we see over and over and over again, that there's a general hesitancy to blame anyone but ourselves.
Well, we see that in the prophets too.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, this will happen if you don't do this, and it'll be on you for doing it. But if you repent, this won't happen, or I will forgive you. But it's, yeah.
Nice. Yeah.
It almost
Okay,
seems,
let's, oh, go ahead, please.
I was going to say, it almost seems like a way for the rabbis to sort of have a measure of personal control in a situation that they can't control. So even though it's really abusive, like you said, and there's a super unhealthy power dynamic, they're clinging to it because if they can blame someone themselves, they can actually do something about it in a
Nice.
weird kind of way.
Totally. Yeah. This is way off topic, but relates to it. So going back, I don't know, 600 years before this time period right here, or 600 years before zero, right around the time of the Babylonian exile, what you get are all of these Jewish explanations, think Lamentations, that blame Jews for this in our actions. But ironically, in doing so, it creates also the method for the preservation of Jewish culture and identity within that experience of exile. I mean, there's that, which is, I think, what you're getting there. So yeah, really interesting. Okay, let's go to some new content. Let's keep going.
Incidental to the mention of the elevated significance of the night watches, the Gemara cites a related story. It was taught in a Baraita that Rabbi Yossi said, I was once walking along the road when I entered the ruins of an old abandoned building among the ruins of Jerusalem in order to pray.
Okay, pause for a second. So you still have these buildings around Jerusalem sometimes? If anyone's been there that you see, right?
Yeah, there are some, and they're excavating and trying to figure out what they were and reconstruct some of them.
Yeah.
Particularly
okay.
tunnels.
So keep going.
I noticed that Elijah of blessed memory came and guarded the entrance for me and waited at the entrance until I finished my prayer.
Okay, hold on. How can he be of blessed memory and be there? Like, how?
This Talmud and Torah. We have the mixing of dates all the time. I mean, this is not, of course, it could have meant that this happened earlier when Elijah was still around.
No. This is contemporary. This is contemporary.
No, I think there's just a sense that Elijah has the power to reappear, and when it's appropriate for him to reappear.
And always in places like this.
That the rabbis just live in a world in which that happens.
Well, we live in a world where that happens every Passover, and you put out the cup for Elijah, and miraculously the wine level goes down.
Well, I'm thinking this is a good explanation that Elijah was the first Doctor Who.
Well done, Bobby. Well,
We've all been inside too long. Okay.
It answers a lot of questions.
I like that. I like every part of that, Bobby. So Elijah does just show up. He tends to show up in places like this.
Yeah.
Right? Like you're in an old abandoned falling down building by yourself outside of Jerusalem, no one around, mysterious, like you can sort of see the smoke and the fog and the Okay, let's keep going.
Is it only in Jerusalem, Danny, or other places?
I don't know. Doesn't it seem more magical in Jerusalem somehow?
I don't know. I thought he was with me in a room outside in Namur, Belgium, but what do I know?
When I finished praying and exited the room, Elijah said to me, deferentially as one would address a rabbi. Oh, is that a hint? I'm sorry. Greetings to you.
Great.
Greetings to you, my rabbi, I answered him. Greetings to you, my rabbi, my teacher. And Elijah said to me, my son, why did you enter this room? I said to him, in order to pray. And Elijah said to me, you should have prayed on the road. And I said to him, I was unable to pray along the road because I was afraid I might be interrupted by travelers and I would be unable to focus. Elijah said to me, you should have recited the abbreviated prayer instituted for such circumstances.
Okay, so I just want to point out, it's not a bad thing that he called Elijah his rabbi. Like, this is a very rabbinic version of Elijah that they've created here, right?
Yeah.
Why? Someone explain the setup and what's happened.
I think that he's giving people permission to say abbreviated prayers when they're traveling.
Okay, yeah. Why, though, is Elijah objecting to being inside the ruins for prayer?
Huh.
Because it's a rune.
What's problematic about ruins?
They don't, what is it that we have to have things beautiful for God?
Oh, okay.
So, and runes could fall down in the middle of a prayer also.
My impression also was that maybe bandits hang out around ruins.
Right, and they're dangerous.
But
Yeah.
I would think that there would be more chance of bandits on the road, and that's what I was expecting the text to say. Not that he would be interrupted by he would be interrupted by bandits.
I don't even understand why they give so much to this question. That's what I'm trying to figure out. Why'd you pray in a room? Why didn't you pray on the road? I was afraid to pray on the road. I mean, I prayed in plenty of ruins. If people were worried about bandits, I guess they were worried about me. But
so let's also talk about what we mean by prayer here, and this is something we should talk about in general, because for the rabbis this is a technical term. Whenever we encounter this word prayer, they don't mean like prayer of the heart or things like that. They are talking about the Amidah, this notion, this idea, this sort of composed liturgical piece that you say 3 times a day that replaces the sacrifices in Jerusalem. So just to clarify here, anytime we
I have just a general question.
Yeah.
Does the length of a paragraph dictate its importance, or it makes no difference?
Because there aren't actually paragraphs in the Talmud. This is entirely an editorial process by this Koren editors and Steinsaltz to create these paragraphs.
But
okay,
I like the idea of giving them permission to shorten prayers if they're going to be interrupted. And the one time we were in Jerusalem on a Friday night, we had dinner at the kosher hotel. And there were 2 guys who were standing there davening to do the service before they ate. But the thing what made it memorable for me is that they weren't paying any attention to what they were doing. They were busy looking all around the room to make sure that everyone was seeing them, either everyone was seeing them davening, or they wanted to make sure that they saw everyone who was there. And I remember I gave Stuart the elbow, and later on we really laughed about it. But if they had been given permission to shorten the prayers, it might have been a little more meaningful for them.
So I think there's a critique here of the long prayer. I also think, similar to what you're saying, there's a critique of being overly pious. that's emerging here. Like, if you're putting yourself in danger because of your piety, then it's not very pious. Okay, let's keep going. Let's see how they conclude this. Go ahead.
Rabbi Yossi concluded, I'll finish it with this paragraph. At that time, from that brief exchange, I learned from him three things. I learned that one may not enter a room. And I learned that one need not enter a building to pray, but he may pray along the road. And I learned that one who prays along the road recites an abbreviated prayer so that he may maintain his focus.
So that's the commentary explanation, right? So he may maintain his focus. Again, just a reminder that whoever's reading, I invite you to correct the gendering that's in here if you'd like to. Okay, let's keep going.
Real quick, can I add something? I almost wonder if the comparison with the ruins and Elijah at the same time has some sort of like metaphorical underpinning in the concept sense of old Jerusalem and the old ways and him having to adapt his prayers to this. It just seems like there's, I don't know, there's an undercurrent I'm not quite sure about.
So there's definitely like Elijah. So going back to our authenticity question issue here, right? Like Elijah's a rabbi here.
Just pretty wild.
Right? Like they're connecting their invented notion that they invented. They invented it. And in fact, they know that they invented it, prayer like this, and particularly the technical forms of prayer like the Amidah or the Me'ain Sheva, which is the shortened version. Even here where it says shorten your prayer, they don't mean like be quick. There is a specific liturgical formula that is the shortened prayer.
Yeah.
And the notion that Elijah would know these things and give advice about these things and be concerned with like rabbinic law certainly is playing to that. But yeah, I think there's something else too with the ruins, and I don't, if you come up with an idea.
Do we know, we don't know for sure why praying in a room is forbidden.
Yeah, they
talk about it a little bit.
They explain it on the side. On the side of the page in English, which is very hard to read, but essentially they're saying because that this might lead to suspicion of other people about what are you doing in this room? Are you conducting illicit business? Prayer should only be done in a proper place.
I think ruin, maybe if we substitute.
That's what they say.
If we substitute our image of archaeological site and instead think of like abandoned building with blown out windows, I think then we're getting it maybe a closer concept for us.
Yeah, but they just mean a rundown building here. It's not an archaeological site. It's not a dig. It's just a rundown building.
Yeah, but the one above said then if you're in a room in Jerusalem, then you're going to be, instead of praying, you're going to be longing for the temple to be rebuilt, and you become preoccupied with it, and you're thinking more of destruction than you are about prayers in the future.
Paul looks like he's going to say something.
Yeah, I've got a quick question. I'm kind of curious about the abbreviated prayers. Now, are they, and when you say the Amidah, which is one of the holiest ones, are they skipping prayers in it, or are they just, I don't understand when you say abbreviated.
Yeah, hold on. If I can figure out how to get my mouse back over. There we go. Stop share. And instead, let's share. Okay.
Paul.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Perfect example. Remember when we do Elenu at the end of a very long service?
Right.
You're all seeing my Facebook right now, right?
And then they jump to the end. That's
Sure.
an abbreviated prayer.
Okay.
So here's, where are you? I know that there's a Siddur in here.
But what I was saying, Bobby, though, when you do the Amidah, being as holy as can be, I guess, when you're praying to all the sages and everybody. How
Just
do you
speed it up.
abbreviate it? I'm sorry. I was just kind of curious, more
No,
curious than anything.
well, the
So-
Orthodox, they do it in like 60 seconds, man. It's like speed
I
pray.
timed it. It was 58. Let's not give them,
I don't see it here, but there is a composed. There's a composed prayer called the Me'en Sheva, which is literally just a shortened Amidah.
Okay. I was just
It's-
curious about that.
Paul, it doesn't look that different from the shortened Amidah that you'll find in an Orthodox shul on a Friday night, for instance.
Thank you.
Okay, any other thoughts before we jump back into brachot? Okay. Here we go. Okay. And after this introduction, someone want to read?
After this introduction, Elijah said to me, "What voice did you hear in that ruin?" I responded, "I heard a heavenly voice, like an echo of that roar of the Holy One, blessed be he, cooing like a dove and saying, 'Woe to the children, to those who sin, to those whose sins I destroyed my house, burned my temple, and exiled them among the nations.'" And Elijah said to me, "By your life and by your head."
So hold on. Let's pause on that heavenly voice. What do we do with that? What's happening?
This is back to what Toby was talking about.
Okay, though it's cooing like a dove.
Coo like a dove?
Isn't that is that a comforting sound? Is that a
Actually, a coo is.
Yeah, cooing like a dove's comforting, but then the words that follow are not comforting.
But it is a comforting. Woe to my children. Like,
Yeah.
I feel bad for, I don't know. I feel bad for my kids when they get in trouble. Particularly if I know I give them a big punishment. Like, yeah.
Woe to the children, due to whose sins I destroyed my house, burned my temple, and exiled them among the nations. Not comforting to me.
Yeah.
But perhaps it's intended to be comforting.
Yeah.
If you have this framework of a God who will do this to you on a divine whim, then the fact that this God is also even bothering to say, "Woe to the children," is in a way quite a leap,
Except when, as a parent, when you have to, particularly if there's a natural consequence of what a child does, and it's the consequence is painful to the child, and you're not even you're doing it, but you have to let it happen in order for the child to learn. That's what I'm getting here, that it isn't pleasant for God to see that, but God is hoping that this consequence of their behavior will teach them something.
I want to go back to what Sarah said earlier too, about there's definitely something, this ruin, the destroyed temple, Elijah, they're all, right, you can see it here. Because, right, it's not just what did you hear, it's what did the heavenly voice say inside the ruin. And it's talking about the destroyed, burned out temple too. Okay, let's keep going. Let's see this next paragraph.
And Elijah said to me, "By your life and by your head." Not only did that voice cry out in that moment, but it cries out 3 times each and every day. Moreover, any time that God's greatness is evoked, such as when Israel enters synagogues and study halls and answers in the Kaddish prayer, "May his great name be blessed, the Holy One, blessed be he," shakes his head and says, "Happy is the king who is thus praised in his house." When the temple stood, this praise was recited there, but now, how great is the pain of the father who exiled his children, and woe to the children who were exiled from their father's table, as their pain only adds to that of their father.
You should really say parent
So
Yeah.
instead of father.
what a paragraph, first of all, right? Like,
So much
Okay.
is going on.
yeah, let's take this apart slowly. every day, 3 times a day, this cry goes out. Just like 3 times a day, the Amidah is said.
Right.
Right. And I just want to note that it says moreover in the Gemara itself, not the commentary. It says moreover when Israel enters synagogues and study halls and answers. Say anytime that God's right there. That's a later addition. May his great name be blessed. What is that? Does anyone know that phrase? So this is Yehei Shmei. This is the line in the Kaddish. Yehei Shmei Rabba Mevorach Le'olam U'Me'al Maya.
Okay.
So traditional saying of the Kaddish, the Chazan or whoever's leading the prayers is Yid Kidal, Yid Kidal Shmei Rabba, right? Everyone, the only things you respond are with Amen until you get to that line. Yehei Shmei Rabba Mevorach Le'olam, right?
Yeah.
So that's the reference here. Yeah. Okay. What those are the technical pieces. What do we make of this?
I wonder if it's not establishing the authority of praying in not, okay, the temple is gone. There are synagogues now and study halls, and prayer there is every bit as important and as efficacious as the sacrifices or the devotions that went on in the temple.
I agree with Renee. Absolutely. I think that there's like this very intentional juxtaposition here that, we go from the divine one cooing, roaring, this woe to the children line to saying, happy is the king who is praised in his house. That's significant. So if it was their actions that cause God sorrow, it's their actions that are causing God joy.
Yeah.
And it's in this framework that the rabbis have very conveniently provided for the people, like, hey guys, this is how you can do it.
Here are the magic words.
Well, and
Literally.
to a mixed message, a mixed response.
Yeah. Okay, let's keep going.
Go ahead, Sarah.
Me, Sarah, or other Sarah?
Anyone read? Whoever wants to read.
I'll read.
Paragraph?
Go for it. Who was that? Was that Marshall who said that?
Yeah, I have Rabbi Daniel. How are you?
We're on.
The sages taught for 3 reasons one may not enter a ruin: because of suspicion of prostitution, because the ruin is liable to collapse, and because of demons.
Okay, I just want to pause that we're going to get some great demon stories in Brachot. It's one of the things. So get excited. Okay, hold on. So for 3 reasons you can't go in.
I always went into ruins.
Practical demon advice. Just you wait. Okay, let's keep going.
Oh my Lord.
3 separate reasons seem extraneous. So the Gemara asks, why was the reason because of suspicion necessary? Let this, I can't pronounce that word, Hakala?
Yeah. Let the halakha, let the legal ruling be derived because of collapse. Right. So I love that we have this great story about demons and things like that. And what's the question that the rabbis ask first? Well, why do you need 3 examples?
The rules agree that you always need 3 of everything.
There you go.
I think the correlation to demons emphasizes this link between the ruins and the past again. It really underscores the fact that we have this liminal space between the sacred and the mundane.
I like that. Okay.
I guess throwing in the prostitution really underlines this the juxtaposition between the sacred and the profane.
Yeah, though you'll be amazed, Bobby. Hang out in Talmud enough, and prostitutes showing up are a pretty frequent occurrence in the Talmud.
Never had a prostitute show up in any room I was ever in.
Isn't there in Barakot where they have the rules against leaving your tefillin out when you're in the bathroom because a prostitute might steal it?
Whoa!
Maybe.
That's
What
great.
do you do with it? Or he, for that matter?
Great.
Special pockets. because I guess what they were doing was they were leaving them on a ledge, and they were like, no, a prostitute could take it. So like, I don't remember. I think it was a pocket. I don't remember what
Because
this
when they're at prostitutes, because there's all sorts of stories of rabbis visiting prostitutes. You've seen rabbi prostitute stories, right? The Alicia story, yeah. Okay, let's keep going. We'll do a special series.
Could I ask a
Yeah.
question?
I love
please.
it.
Is prostitution used here not in the strict meaning of the word, but as a sort of general term for sort of moral turpitude?
That's the way I was taking it. That it's just someone's going to be doing something nasty in there.
Yeah, exactly.
I took it as prostitution.
Okay. Well, it strikes me that, you're in triple danger. You're in moral danger, you're in physical danger, and you're in spiritual danger.
Ah.
I like that.
Spiritual because of the demons, Renee?
Yes.
Okay.
So Renee, one thing to hold on to is
Yes.
I think we probably are going to be more judgmental of the morality surrounding prostitution than they are in this text.
Okay.
I'm not.
Just a piece to hold on to here that it's not as I think we're probably talking about the danger of like physical danger but I could be wrong. Yeah.
Well, I often note in other texts, not just in Torah, but throughout the Tanakh, that often when they're talking about prostitutes, it's not so much that they're against that way of someone making a living. It's they're against the use of it as a kind of ritual, a religious ritual.
Yeah, certainly.
They don't want it happening in the temple. They don't want, the children of Israel engaging in it as a ritual of religious devotion. So
It's super prominent in Assyrian culture, right next door. So
exactly.
Right.
Don't be like those other people.
Yep.
Mm.
And the prostitution in the other cultures was part of the
Holiness code.
and the ritual of their religion, and that's what they were really against.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's the point I was.
Though by the time you get to the Talmud, you will find some texts that seem to allow for like prostitution as long as the sex worker is Jewish.
Oh, whoa.
I mean, we've had instances of sex
Like
workers.
a sex guy,
in Torah.
this guy.
Sure, totally.
Before we get carried away on this, the succeeding paragraphs, which we haven't read yet, continue this story.
So let's keep going.
About,
Yeah, great. Let's keep going.
Okay.
Great, Bobby. Marshall, you were reading. Do you feel like keep reading, or you can opt out too?
I can read. Just help me pronounce some of the words, please.
Yeah, no worries.
The Gemara answers this halakha applies even in the case of a new sturdy ruin, where there is no danger of collapse. Therefore, the reason because of suspicion is cited in order to warn one not to enter into a new ruin as well.
Okay. So remember the question directly that we're dealing with here is why do we need 3 examples? And you need 1 because maybe it's a sturdy ruin and you'd say I could go there. Okay, let's keep going.
The Gemara continues to object and let this
halakha.
Halakha, yeah.
halakha be derived because of demons. The Gemara answers, demons are only a threat to individuals, so because of demons would not apply to a case where 2 people enter a ruin together.
Okay, so there you go. I told you, you're going to get practical demon advice today in Brachot. Okay.
I have such trouble with Jews and demons.
Yeah.
It seems so un-Jewish for some reason.
Yeah.
Well, isn't it a Hellenistic? Sorry.
No, continue, Sarah.
Isn't it a Hellenistic influence that we see like all of these stories pop up around demons and angels, like after we see, like looking at like the timeline, like after there's Greek influence, we see all of a sudden like this emphasis on angels in the Greek sense and demons.
Ah.
I had a professor who made that case once and I was like, interesting. And
I don't know enough about yeah. I mean, like you get classical angels, right? There's all sorts of angels in the Torah, messengers. These characters. I mean, right? Israel wrestles with them, but
They're really
yeah,
different.
they're really different, and you start getting real angelology, like in the Dead Sea Scrolls.
Wait, you said angel? Demons aren't angels, are they?
No.
No.
They're-
So
Demons tend to be with physical geography.
but you just said angelography.
So angelology, like angel,
Yeah.
lots of angels. They're into angels. It's just a technical term. It's not. Yeah, sorry.
But are demons juxtaposed with angels?
So demons tend to be associated with place, with location, and with geography. Think about Azazel, the story around Yom Kippur that you send out the goat to each of them, right?
Yeah.
Azazel is a direction, pretty clearly,
Yeah.
an area. There was a great Far Side cartoon from years ago about like the free goat that they'd send out every year. Okay, let's keep going.
I love this next paragraph. It's great.
Marshall, you want to take it?
The
Yeah, I got
Gemara objects, but if there are two people entering a room together, then there is no suspicion either. There is no prohibition against two men to be alone with a woman, as in that case, there is no suspicion of untoward behavior. Consequently, if two men enter a room together, there is no room for suspicion. The Gemara answers, if two individuals known to be immoral enter together, there is suspicion, even though there are two of them.
Okay.
Oh, dear.
Who writes this stuff? Were they like really enjoying themselves?
Probably.
I mean, this is hysterical stuff.
So we actually looked at texts sort of like this as a part of the Tuesday night class that we looked at sort of queer texts throughout the last 2,000 years. Because there's all sorts of texts like that. It sound like this. This is not quite there, but yeah.
The Gemara
Keep going. Yeah.
the Gemara considers why, because of collapse, is necessary. The Gemara considers why, because of collapse is it's not even grammatical. Let the prohibition be derived from suspicion and demons. The Gemara responds, there are times when this reason is necessary. For example, when two upstanding individuals enter a room together. Although there is neither concern of suspicion nor of demons, there remains concern lest the ruin collapse. But this is fun.
Yeah, but what if it's two upright people in a recent ruin?
Excellent, excellent.
I'm sure we're going there. I'm sure we're going there. Okay.
Well, the Gemara considers the third reason because of demons. Why is it necessary to include because of demons? Let the prohibition be derived from suspicion and collapse. There's your answer, Danny.
Well,
Yeah.
you've at least got 2 out of 3 to worry about.
Okay.
Which two is up to you.
Okay, keep going, Bobby. We're not done with demons and suspicion.
Can you raise the page a bit? Okay. The Gemara responds, there are cases where this is the only concern. Now you went, okay. For example, where it is a new ruin into which two upstanding individuals enter.
Hold it.
So there is neither concern lest it collapse nor suspicion. Gemara points out, however, that if there are two people, there is also no concern of demons. As such, the question remains, in what case can demons be the sole cause not to enter a ruin? Take it, Toby.
God. In what case can demons be the sole case not to enter a room?
Right? They're saying, so why
Gemara
bother mentioning
responds.
demons?
Generally speaking, two individuals need not be concerned about demons. But if they are in their place, i.e., a place known to be haunted by demons, see Isaiah, we are concerned about demons even with two people.
If it's a particularly bad demon infestation, it's really.
I would assume there is a demon infestation. If And if you wish, say
I love this.
instead, actually, this refers to the case of an individual entering a new room located in a field. There's no suspicion, as finding a woman in the field is uncommon. And since it is a new room, there is no danger of collapse. However, there is still the concern of demons.
Oh man, they were stoned. They were all stoned. This is incredible.
Obviously they believe in demons.
So hold on to that question, Toby, because some of the times when we're gonna get demon talk, I'm pretty sure it's mocking.
Yeah, I'm not even thinking about the demons when I was laughing here. It was like, as finding a woman in the field is uncommon. I mean, gee whiz. And woman by here, I'm assuming they mean prostitute.
Or even that they're not particularly interested in talking about demons, right? Just like, oh, as an explanation, but yeah.
I think they're having a lot of fun dancing around this, but I think the feeling that I'm getting is that ruins are lonely, deserted places. And prayer is meant to happen in a community, even when you're by yourself. You should be in someplace well lit, peopled, traversed, because these dangerous, lonely these isolated, deserted, lonely places they present problems. Either you're going to encounter some danger that you can't get yourself out of, or you're going to be tempted by something you shouldn't be tempted by, or you're going to have these wild imaginings, and all of a sudden, instead of focusing on the point of the prayer, you're thinking, well, I don't know, I'm taking all this stuff, prostitutes, demons, kind of loosely. There are phantasms of the mind that can assault one in lonely places. We've all been in places that are spooky and we can't put our finger on why.
I agree with you, Renee. I know that there's a later section where they talk about like where to pray if you can't make it to the synagogue. And they even talk about, well, if you can't make it to the synagogue, pray at the same time that they're praying in the synagogue.
Mhm.
So that underscores the sense of community that's really being emphasized.
And I think you're right about loneliness. The fact that if you're isolated, as we are all well learning, it's very difficult.
Isolated. I see you.
Well, thank God we have Zoom.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, because I grew up at a time before the internet.
No.
If we had been going through this at a time when there were one or two TV stations or no TV, imagine if you were by yourself in an apartment or a house. It would be really, really bad.
No.
And all kinds of mischief would come to your mind.
Renee, I just want to say, where were you when we were naming this class? Because I think we would have gotten a lot more people if we had named this prostitutes, demons, and phantasms of the mind. That would have hundreds here.
Oh, Danny, go back and change it.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
But I think what loneliness thing, we began with urban ruins. And an urban ruin, by definition, is not really, you're not isolated, alone. It's just an old building that's not inhabited anymore. So, but the other stuff you said about danger and a lighted place, that makes sense, Renee. But
even urban ruins, I mean, turn on the news, such and such, somebody discovered in an abandoned building, some terrible thing, people have moved in there and they're doing something illegal, I don't know. And maybe nothing's happening, but you could imagine. I mean, you live on a block, there's an empty building for year after year because the person who owns it won't sell it. The neighbors are unhappy.
Yeah.
Okay. Until next week, my friends.
Oh, we're done?
Oh. We could go on, but we really started another section here, and I figure we may as well stop
Oh,
this
well,
section.
this was good. Lots more humor today. That was great. We
This is
should have
good.
renamed prostitutes, etc.,
Yeah.
etc.
Yeah, next week,
Prostitutes,
prostitutes, demons, and
and
phantasms of the mind.
Name it
Yep.
Phantasm Hoedown.
What's the next session?
Oh, I think
section
you have
about?
to put
Think of
demons
the
in
name.
there.
I am getting weird.